Joseph Stalin was always on his guard. Working alone at his Kuncevo dacha, at his desk day and night, he was nicknamed Comrade Card Index. He showed a diligence which Hitler lacked completely, and that was the key to his power. As time passed, his paranoia increased. He became distrustful of all those around him, even closest colleagues and friends. Aware of how effectively he had dispatched others, Stalin put faith only in himself. In 1934, at the 17th Party Congress, Stalin's suspicions focused on his old comrade Sergei Kirov, the leader of the Leningrad Party. Kirov was everything that Stalin was not. Charismatic, handsome, warm and outgoing, popular in the party. To make matters worse, he opposed the pace and methods of Stalin's revolution.
Сталин его считал конкурентом, и он боялся Кирова, потому что он боялся...
Stalin considered Kirov to be a rival and was afraid of him because of his popularity among the people. At the 17th Party Congress, in the elections for the General Secretary, Kirov won. Stalin faked the results, but Kirov wasn't really trying to become General Secretary, and he went back off to Leningrad and worked there.
10 months after the Congress, Sergei Kirov was assassinated in Leningrad. It is still unknown whether Stalin was responsible, but Kirov's death gave him the excuse he needed to start his Great Terror. Stalin ordered a full state funeral for his former friend and appeared as the chief mourner. His daughter later wrote,
"When the facts convinced my father that someone he knew well had turned out badly after all, this was where his cruel, implacable nature showed itself. The past ceased to exist for him. Years of friendship and fighting side by side in a common cause might as well have never been."
More often than not, he used to be burying his own victims, who were killed according to his orders. He had this principle. He used to say, if there's a person, there's a problem. No person, no problem.
Stalin's show trials began. Disagreement with the leader on any issue, however trivial, had become a capital crime for which there was only one sentence: death. Former friends and associates of Stalin confessed under torture to the most extraordinary crimes. Confessions which they then repeated to Stalin's notorious prosecutor, Andrei Vyshinsky.
Stalin never forgot those who had opposed him in the past, and he settled scores with them. The show trials are the classic example of this. The show trials were also an important means of propaganda, of convincing the Soviet public that there really were enemies everywhere, even at the highest level of the party.
The state prosecutor Vyshinsky and his victims were reading from a script. Stalin had carefully stage-managed every last detail of the charade. He even had a secret vantage point from which he could follow the proceedings, and seems to have taken a sadistic delight in the humiliation of his victims.
My idea of a perfect day is to plan a beautiful revenge on an enemy, carry it out, and then go home peacefully to bed.
I believed in this, as many other people believed. There was belief in Stalin then. It had to be either or. And at that time, you could either believe in Stalin and not doubt, or not believe in Stalin and become one of those people who were sent to prison and shot. It was not a difficult choice.
Stalin personally signed execution orders for 41,000 men and women. But there were many more victims of his terror in the 30s. Millions of Soviet citizens were arrested, hundreds of thousands of whom were shot. By 1939, there were more than 2 million who had been transported to the camps, many of whom died. Hitler's actions in this period pale by comparison. His horrors were still to come. In the Soviet Union in the late 30s, Stalin, unlike Hitler, rarely mingled with the masses. He had a paranoid fear of assassination. Stalin was remote but ever present in the people's lives, a godlike figure, all-seeing and all-powerful. He was called Vozhd, the boss. When his mother had asked him what he did, he told her, "I'm a bit like a Tsar." Certainly the people saw him as such.
Это поразительное сочетание.
It was a curious combination of deathly horror and naive credulity on the part of the people. Most believed in him as they would their own father, the wise leader of the people, and so on.
Родного отца, это мудрейший вождь народов и так далее, и так далее.
Adolf Hitler was also at the height of his powers. In the spring of 1938, his troops marched into Austria, bringing about the union of Germany with the country of his birth. He too had become a god, a mythical figure for his people, always more popular and separate from the Nazi party he led. But unlike Stalin, it was his spellbinding physical presence which captivated the masses. Hitler and Stalin were absolute masters in their own domains, and as the balance of power in Europe shifted, they began warily to circle each other. "I have read a book on Stalin," Hitler said. "He is a tremendous personality who took the whole of that gigantic country firmly in his iron grasp."
Both dictators were very aware of the other. They gazed at each other across Europe. They wondered what the other was like, what made the other tick, what was his grip on his people like. And the few glimpses we have, both from Hitler and from Stalin, show that there was something like a mutual admiration between them. I mean, they both respected the fact that they had come from very humble backgrounds and had triumphed against all the odds to lead great powers.
Following the annexation of Austria, Hitler continued to expand the Third Reich. In 1939, he began to eye his next target, Poland.
В Москву прибыл министр иностранных дел Германии господин Joachim von Ribbentrop.
In a move of supreme cynicism but calculated logic, so typical of both tyrants, the two opposing camps now locked in a deadly embrace. In the summer of 1939, Hitler sent his foreign minister, von Ribbentrop, to Moscow to sign a non-aggression pact with Stalin. The advantages were clear to both. Hitler was free to attack Poland, and Stalin, weakened by a purge of the military command, gained time to build up his defences. Ribbentrop wanted a preamble to the pact outlining the mutual respect of the two nations. Stalin refused. "After 6 years pouring buckets of filth over one another, it's too late to expect our peoples to believe all is forgiven and forgotten," he said. After the signing, he told his staff, "I know what Hitler's up to. He thinks he's outsmarted me. But actually it is I who has outsmarted him." Events were to show how wrong he was.